organization. We have 57 participating states in Europe, Asia, and North America, and we have 11 partners for cooperation in Asia and Mediterranean. The OSCE has a comprehensive approach to security, and climate change, tackling climate challenges are an integral part of this comprehensive approach and also our mandate. So in delivering this mandate, we are working very closely with our national counterparts in 5 countries in Central Asia, and also with the, of course, support of our field operations, which are present in the region. So as we all know, Central Asia has a very unique ecological system and distinct landscapes, and this is particularly vulnerable to the negative impacts of climate change. In the region, the problems caused by climate change are very complex. They are affecting lives and livelihoods of people, the economies, and the environment. And we know that these impacts are actually hardly ever limited to one country. They are mostly either transboundary or even regional. And these have implications for security and stability as well. At the same time, tackling climate challenges together offers new avenues for regional cooperation, which in turn can contribute to prosperity and sustainability. And such cooperation also strengthens good neighborly relations and builds confidence, and therefore thereby enhances security and stability. And this is this positive narrative that the OSCE has been promoting in its efforts in tackling climate change. In this event, we would like to discuss how climate-related risks and challenges manifest themselves in Central Asia, what opportunities exist for regional cooperation, and what the OSCE can do more to support our participating states. Most of our work in the field of climate change, including in Central Asia, is supported through our flagship project on climate change and security, which we will talk about later on, and some of our major donors are also here with us. So in this side event, we are honored to have ministers, chairman of environmental committee, as well as other high-level representatives from the region. We have representatives of our project donors and experts and practitioners who will contribute to the discussion. And let me add that this is a very timely discussion, because thanks to the COP28 UAE presidency, this is the first COP that dedicated a day to climate and peace. And this was on Sunday, as you know. And a declaration on climate relief, recovery and peace has been adopted, released, and already endorsed by many countries. And I'm happy to note that from OSCE participating states, there are 30 member states who have also endorsed, and some of them are also here. So it's very pleasing. With this, I now invite Zafar Mahmudov, CAREC's Executive Director, for his welcoming remarks. And before I pass the microphone, Zafar, I really thank a lot to CAREC for giving us this opportunity and this pavilion. We are also privileged to join other international partners in supporting the pavilion. So, Zafar, please.
Thank you, Esra. Your Excellencies, Ministers, Ambassadors, esteemed participants of this side event, I'm sincerely glad to welcome you to our joint effort that we have put to create this side event organized by OSCE and the Regional Environmental Center for Central Asia, dedicated to regional cooperation on climate change and security. If we were saying for the last few days that climate change has already become a reality in Central Asia, then security and stability has become an acute issue for our society, economy, and the most vulnerable communities and ecosystems we have in Central Asia. This is a challenge that concerns us all, and this is a challenge that we cannot close our eyes on. As we discussed earlier, in the other events of the pavilion, this is a challenge, but along with this challenge comes an opportunity an opportunity to change our world for the better, an opportunity to create a climate-resilient future for our countries. And now is that time that our countries need to unite their efforts with a common slogan: climate change and peace. The slogan that you have mentioned, the dedicated day, we believe that this day will be uniting the countries together. And also, I would like to mention that there was a slogan and the basis of a recently adopted regional strategy for adaptation in Central Asia, which was presented a few days ago in this pavilion. So another good factor is that that regional strategy for adaptation was also mentioned in the regional statement of Central Asian countries that we have also mentioned during the opening of this pavilion on, it was already 1st of December, it was quite a few days, huh? Okay, so at the same time, I would like to note the support provided by the international community to Central Asian countries, and especially to uniting the efforts of the Central Asian countries in combating the negative impacts of climate change in the region. One interesting point, I have just been speaking today, and I have noted that the very first time the Pavilion of Central Asia that was created in Glasgow in COP26, that was supported by OSCE. And one of the major supporters of that pavilion was OSCE. I must even confess, if it was not OSCE, we might not have had a pavilion back then in Glasgow, because it was the very first time that a pavilion was created by Central Asian countries for Central Asian countries. And there were so many doubts, there were so many ambiguities, there were so many unclarities, but we went through this and we know that it is possible. And this year, we have organized the second pavilion, which was also supported by OSCE and a line of other partner countries, the logos of whom you can see here, mostly the government of Germany, USAID, FAO, and other partners. So, at the end, I would like to say that we know that we don't have much time, but even small steps can lead us to bring big results. And the most important is the unanimity of decisions and unification of our efforts to combat or to do something to achieve our common goals. I hope that our event will be a good opportunity to discuss these important issues and develop new ideas and new initiatives for regional cooperation in the field of climate change and security. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zafar. Just to introduce the agenda, now we will have some brief input presentations by Karek from our side on the project together with our implementing partner Adelphi, and then we will have a panel together with our distinguished representatives who are with us here. So I would now like to invite Mr. Vladimir Grebnev, a regional climate change specialist of Karek, for his presentation. Please, Vladimir.
Уважаемые дамы и господа, я хотел бы представить вам ту деятельность, которую реализовал региональный экологический центр перед подготовкой к COP28. Коллеги, можно презентацию? Это достаточно долгий процесс. Зафар Хакимович уже отметил относительно того успеха, который был достигнут, когда первый раз при поддержке ОБСЕ и других партнеров по развитию был организован павильон на COP26. Как вы видите, очень высокий уровень участников был на данном павильоне, тех мероприятий, которые были проведены. Но самый важный момент, который нужно будет отметить, это следующая деятельность. И решение о том, что COP28 также будет иметь то, что COP28 будет иметь также свой павильон Центральной Азии, было принято на конференции, 9-й конференции МИД и парламентариев, которая прошла в Ташкенте в апреле текущего года. Презентация пропала.
Отсутствует звук, коллеги.
Отсутствует звук. Пожалуйста, включите.
and other participated on this event. Next, this is but not the final part. This is our pavilion. You are in pavilion of Central Asia. You see that how many events we are hosted. And if you are looking on the agenda, each day we have at least 5 side events. Some of these side events provided on this list. This is the presentation of regional climate change adaptation strategy. The very important event which was organized by Kyrgyzstan, this is the conservation of mountain ecosystem and iconic species. The 10th meeting of representative of MFA and parliamentaries. Climate finance, it was a very large discussion with participation on green growth initiative, ADB, Green Climate Fund, and other partners took place in our pavilion. And now we are participating on the OSCE and CARIC joint event on Central Asian United. One of the interesting next event, it will be joint statement of Central Asian climate NGOs and US, which is scheduled on 8th of December, fostering resilience, regional and collaboration. You know that the important part related to of our activities in our region. Нажмите следующий слайд. Oh, it's too fast. But this is not only completion of our activities. We have the follow-up action. This is development analytical outcome of COP28 with assessment of prospectus for Central Asian countries, which will be delivered and disseminated among the parties in January 24th, and post-COP conference, which is scheduled on February 24th, and exactly Central Asian Climate Change Conference, which is scheduled on September 24. And I would like to appreciate the government of Germany and OSCE for their support to the regional climate change dialogue on preparation of COP28 and follow-up actions. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I do it if there's a problem. Thank you very much, Vladimir, and we really look forward to the regional statement from Central Asia, which will be also guiding us in our future work in the region. So now I will use a few minutes to talk about our work on climate change and security, with a focus particularly on Central Asia. Well, climate and security topic came to OSCE's agenda back in 2007. More or less at the same time when the debate started globally. So since then, until 2021, a few OSCE Ministerial Council decisions made small references to climate change, be it in the context of environment or migration or energy, and the last one was on disaster risk reduction back in 2014. But on 3rd of December 2021, there has been a major breakthrough. The 57 foreign ministers of OSCE participating states adopted a decision on climate change, and this is by consensus. And of course, reaching consensus in a region, in an organization which has different membership, different profile of membership, this is really a big achievement. So cooperation is at the heart of this decision. It calls our participating states to cooperate with each other for climate-related analysis, for early warning, for disaster risk reduction, for joint adaptation and mitigation actions, for sharing information of this fund. Another recent example of political dialogue is actually from last week. On Thursday, at the OSCE Ministerial Council meeting in Skopje, the OSCE chairman in office, Foreign Minister Osmani of North Macedonia, convened a side event on climate change and security, where we benefited from also contributions from Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. And this discussion was moderated by our OSCE Special Representative, Nasser Nureddini, who is also here, and I'm sure he will tell us more about that. So let me now turn to the technical level. For over a decade, we have been implementing projects that address climate-related security risks in the OSCE area. In 2020, we embarked on a new initiative together with our partner, Adelphi. This project covers 4 regions: Southeastern Europe, Eastern Europe, South Caucasus, and Central Asia. You see the objectives. It mainly aims to enhance understanding of how climate security risks play in these regions. It aims to increase regional cooperation and to increase awareness and capacities to tackle with these challenges. And this project, as you can see, the list of our donors has been supported by our 14 participating states and 1 partner country, which is Japan. And we organize national and regional consultations to assess risks and to also identify and map hotspots. Hotspots are, maybe a definition would help, are the locations that face multiple challenges, including climate change impacts, as well as environmental, social, and economic and political pressures. So in this process, more than 250 stakeholders, ministries, non-governmental organizations, and academia from the region took part. And as a result, these hotspots were identified. Then last year in Almaty, we launched a new round of regional consultations to revisit these hotspots in the region and also to prioritize them. And result of this process was published early this summer. There are some copies of this report, which you see here on the screen, but it's also available online. In this process, high mountain areas emerged as one of the priorities. And this year in June, we were hosted by Uzbekistan to convene another major regional event in Tashkent. In this event, government and civil society representatives from all 5 countries discussed climate security challenges in high mountains, and they identified key topics for regional cooperation, which you will hear soon from my colleague Beatrice from Adelphi. In this Tashkent workshop, the participants also identified a set of project ideas. So based on that, we are now developing a regional cooperation strategy and an implementation plan. And our next step will be to put into practice some of these project ideas. And maybe I should also underline that in all these processes, we also had major regional and international actors who are active in the region. So in an effort to ensure synergies and to somehow complement each other's work. So as you have seen, regional approach and participatory approach to climate security and national ownership and demand-drivenness. These are the key principles of our work in all regions, key features of our work, also in Central Asia. Just one slide, last slide, I will not elaborate on that, but especially in Central Asia, we also have a specific focus on youth. Since last year, we are promoting youth networking on climate and security with the also great support of our OSCE field operations, in this case, particularly program office in Bishkek. And you will hear a lot more from my colleague Zoya, who is here representing youth. So with this, I thank you very much. And I pass the floor to Beatrice from Adelphi. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much, Ezra, for the very kind introduction and for giving me the opportunity to share some of the work that we've been doing together with the OSCE in Central Asia under the framework of our project. And I think, 2 days ago, we had Peace Day at COP. We had the launch of the declaration that, as you may know, comes with a package of solutions. So concrete actions to address the challenges posed by climate change, to stability, to security. So at the same time, building peace. And I think this project is already a step ahead. 2 days after the launch of the declaration is already implementing the package of solutions. And I think it's a great case of concrete action that is happening on the ground, a great case of taking the challenge that climate change poses, the challenges that climate change poses, as an opportunity to come together, work together to address these challenges and build a better future for the people, the countries, the region, in this case of Central Asia. So a great case to showcase and share at the global level as well. But maybe let me take a step back before I go into talking a bit more about what we're doing in the framework of the project, to frame a bit the conversation by sharing a few words on why we are focusing on climate and security. Why do we need to care about these and address these linkages? I think the understanding of the link, as Ezra was saying, the OSCE has been working on climate change since 2007. The understanding of how and what type of challenges does climate change pose to security, to stability in many contexts around the world has really increased in the last couple of years, I would say. And this because we're seeing some of these dynamics at play in many contexts. We're seeing climate change impacts exacerbating, interacting with other socioeconomic, political, environmental drivers of instability, and really exacerbating insecurity, in some cases, in some parts of the world, even conflict. And we know that climate change is not the direct cause of instability and of conflict, but we know that it contributes to it. And there's been a lot of, I'm a researcher at heart, so I love to talk about this, but I can't because I don't have time. But there's been a lot of research that has been invested in trying to understand how these linkages work, how these pathways work. So how does climate change interact with all these other drivers to lead to instability and insecurity? And to be very brief, I think overall, there are a number of key trends that we are seeing emerging from many different contexts. And we had just yesterday an event where we were talking about Haiti, Yemen, and Somalia. And incredibly, the challenges from these three very different contexts were very similar indeed. Again, talking about these pathways that manifest in different ways in different contexts, but overall, the challenges are very similar. So first of all, the impacts of climate change are putting livelihoods at risk, and these especially in those contexts where livelihoods are very directly dependent on nature, on the environment. And of course, if you're threatening livelihoods of people, these can lead to conflicts over increasingly scarcer resources, thinking particularly about land and water, and conflict and tensions and scarcer resources all contribute to exacerbating poverty and bringing back or hampering progress towards sustainable development and economic growth. But also, we have to remember that these resources do not stay within the administrative boundary of states. Many of them, think of water, they cross boundaries. And if and when climate change does contribute to making these resources scarcer, without agreements between countries, this can lead to tensions over the use, over the distribution, the allocation of resources such as water. And we're seeing this in many parts of the world already. Also, if climate change exacerbates livelihood insecurity, this can lead to people deciding to leave their homes, to leave their communities, to look for better opportunities somewhere else. And we've seen this for decades, centuries, in terms of mobility, especially from rural or more remote areas like mountain areas to urban centers. But also internationally, leaving countries to go somewhere else. And of course, migration is not bad. Actually, in many cases, it can be a very positive adaptation measure, helping people, families build better life for themselves somewhere else. It's an important contributor to the economy through the role of remittances. But it can create tensions when receiving communities are already struggling with unemployment, resource scarcity, etc., and they're not provided with support for helping the people that are arriving to them. But also it puts people that stay behind at risk, especially if we think of migration as typically a phenomenon that involves young men. Women, the elderly, children that stay behind are left in areas at risk that don't have enough access to livelihood sources or that are vulnerable to climate-related natural hazards. And also migration can lead to the loss of tradition, of social cohesion within communities, which in many cases are actually important coping mechanisms by themselves for communities and people living in certain areas. We all know climate change will intensify the frequency and intensity of natural hazards. And these, without the appropriate governance, early warning systems in place, can lead to disasters that pose risks to human life, to infrastructure, therefore having consequences on economic growth, but also poses health risks. Think of drought and heat waves, increasing air pollution and posing a direct threat to our health. But also in the case, for example, you have a flood that can led to spills from a mining site and hazardous waste being spread into the environment. So very significant environmental and health risks that can come out of this increased risk of disasters linked to climate change. But also very important pathway that we need to take into account, again, referring to what I shared at the beginning, we're seeing the impacts of climate change posing these challenges and countries, civil society organizations, stakeholders realizing the importance of acting to these challenges as becoming an entry point for cooperation. And I think this is very much the focus that our project has. So very quickly, how is our project working to address these challenges? How do we address these risks? We need to understand them because we want to act in a preventive way before these risks materialize. And in terms of how, it's very important to focus on cooperation. Again, these are not risks that can be addressed by one country or by one government in one local area. It requires a lot of different stakeholders to come together. In the project, we went through a very thorough participatory process in the region, as we already talked about it. We identified a number of hotspots where action is required. Particularly in the last phase of our project, we decided to focus on high mountain areas in the region. And there, together with stakeholders from the region in Tashkent, but also building on a much broader consultation process that took years, essentially, we identified a number of project ideas that focus on, I would say, 4 areas. On 4 areas. An important area is improving livelihood security, and there the projects propose, for example, joint activities and funding schemes to diversify livelihoods, to reduce people's dependency on natural-based livelihoods, but also, for example, to promote tourism sustainably and with community-based solutions, or to promote, invest in handicraft and other artisanal products that can be sold regionally, even internationally. Also, in terms of improving livelihoods, investing in capacity building and training, particularly for women, for young people working in the agriculture and forestry sectors in mountain region, to support their development, their capacity to diversify, to innovate, and access to markets. Also, there are a number of projects in our cooperation strategy that look at how to support climate-related human mobility. So for those that intend to migrate and support for the communities receiving them, for example, through the introduction of harmonized measures across the region to support unemployed migrants by facilitating their access to education, training, and employment opportunities, but also activities to increase the livelihood security for those that want to stay, to give them the viable option to stay in mountain areas where they live. So investing in the development of climate resilient infrastructure and services, creating opportunities for employment in small and medium enterprises in climate resilient sectors, etc. And then, importantly, investments in early warning system and disaster risk reduction to prevent disasters from happening and from having all these negative risks that I just talked about before. For example, investing in joint monitoring of climate-related risks to glaciers with a focus on glaciers because we're focusing on high mountain areas, or investing in the creation of a centralized regional framework for disaster management with standardized protocols for early warning systems. And I think very interesting idea, the development of regulatory frameworks for insurance, the development of insurance schemes so that when or if a disaster strikes, insurance and compensation schemes can be put in place for affected population. Again, a very broad range of really interesting activities that we hope to put in place and pilot in cooperation with the stakeholders that have been involved in our project and building on the many efforts that are already undergoing in the region to create synergies and amplify the work that we're doing there. I'll stop here. I hope this has provided you with some inspiration in terms of how to turn a challenge into an opportunity. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak here, and I'll leave the floor back to Ezra. Thank you.
Thank you, Bea, very much for this very clear and comprehensive presentation. So some of those project ideas that Bea has mentioned that was developed through this regional consultation process, we will start implementation hopefully next year, 1 or 2 of them. But for the rest, we will also promote it to our donors and other international partners for them to pick up and to somehow deliver on this joint undertaking taken by our countries themselves. So we have a very limited time, but now actually the most important part of our side event, I would like to invite our panelists. First of all, yeah, please come here and my colleagues will help you with the seating. His Excellency Melis Turgunbayev, Minister of Natural Resources, Ecology and Technical Supervision of Kyrgyz Republic, please. His Excellency Bahadur Sheralizoda, Chairman of Committee for Environmental Protection, Republic of Tajikistan. I would like to invite Jihangir Talipov, Head of Department in the Ministry of Ecology, Environmental Protection and Climate Change, Republic of Uzbekistan. I would like to invite Ambassador Mahtum Kuli Akimuradov, Advisor, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkmenistan. Ambassador Tula Urole, Ambassador Designate of Finland to the United Arab Emirates. Ambassador, please. Pia van Akkern, Policy Officer, Climate, Peace and Security Division, German Federal Foreign Office, with whom we worked for many years in different capacities as well. Please, Pia. Zoya Kretova, NGO Students for the Green Economy. And Nasser Nureddini, OSCE Special Representative on Climate Change. Please. Once again, thank you all for being with us, for devoting time to us in this busy schedule. And the composition of this panel already demonstrates, I think, the importance of the topic for the region. Thank you very much. So I would like to start with Minister Turgunbayev. Minister, you were with us also in Vienna in the high-level conference on climate change in July, and we benefited a lot actually from your contributions. Kyrgyzstan has been in the lead of promoting sustainable mountain development, climate resilient mountain development globally, and you have taken really important steps. And as you know, high mountain areas are also our focus in this project in Central Asia. So could you please elaborate on what more we can do to promote regional cooperation in this field? How we can be, how we can further support your efforts in this field, please.
Раз.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, dear restaurant, thank you very much for organizing this event and for inviting us for this event. We very much value our cooperation with OSCE, and we know how much is important this regional cooperation with OSCE. As you mentioned, I was in July in Vienna, participated at the OSCE high-level conference organized by and hosted by OSCE Secretary General Helga Schmidt in Vienna, which provides us a good platform for all ministers of environment from Central Asia. For the first time we get together. and discussed our regional issues. And we also discussed how we can further collaborate in addressing climate-related challenges in the region together. And this was an excellent opportunity for all of us. In the meantime, also we continue to benefit significantly from the OSCE's extra budgetary project on strengthening responses to security risks from climate change in Southeastern Europe and Eastern Europe and the South Caucasus and Central Asia. We are also happy to note that this project made climate resilient mountain development a priority for Central Asia. As you know, for more than 20 years, Kyrgyzstan has been a champion of the mountain issues in the global arena. Social, environmental, and economic processes in mountains are associated with great risks and complexities, and it is important to recognize this as a significant indicator of vulnerability. At this conference, we have articulated the need to promote dialogue on mountains and climate, and we must further advance this issue further. And allow me to underline that this year, the OSCE has joined the UN's Mountain Partnership, and we can only strengthen our cooperation in this field. Much has been done, but more needs to be done. Together, with an international support, we can achieve more tangible results. We are looking forward to continuing our collaboration with other countries in the region in developing a cooperation strategy and an implementation plan, and do as well more pilot activities in this field. As Kyrgyzstan, we also attach great importance to involving youth actively in climate action. And this project also helps us in furthering our efforts in this field. As you know, in Kyrgyzstan, which is located in the heart of Central Asia, there are more than 8,000 glaciers on its territory. Glaciers are an important source of fresh water for our country and in the entire region, especially in times of drought. And their melting directly affects the lives and activities of the entire population of the region. It also leads to an increase in water-related risks such as mudslides, floods, landslides, and avalanches. Changes in water availability in the natural environment have a negative impact on biodiversity and the ecosystem as a whole. All these processes damage the country's economy and pose a threat to human life and health. Thus, from year to year, the country should invest more and more in life-supporting infrastructure, water supply, and drainage systems, irrigation networks, road and transportation infrastructure in urban development, and in ensuring environmental safety in the region. The Kyrgyz Republic does not remain inactive in the face of these challenges, and our country is actively implementing measures to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and develop renewable energy sources. We are also working to reduce the anthropogenic impact on water resources, improve water supply systems, and ensure access to clean water for the country's population. An important part of our strategy is the creation of national parks and reserves to protect vulnerable ecosystems and preserve Kyrgyzstan's priceless wealth, our glaciers. We are also investing in scientific research and cooperating with international organizations to develop effective climate change adaptation strategies. Kyrgyzstan was one of the first countries in Central Asia to submit an updated nationally determined contribution to the Paris Agreement. An action plan to achieve the updated NDC targets has now been developed. These days, we are finalizing the overall long-term concept for achieving carbon neutrality until 2050, where we clearly define the image of climate-smart future of our country, the strategy, and the main stages of its achievement. Today, the focus of our efforts is on increasing alternative renewable energy sources, energy efficiency, developing sustainable transportation, and preserving natural ecosystems. Thank you so much.
Minister, thank you very much, both highlighting the challenges, but also the significant efforts and achievements of Kyrgyzstan in addressing those challenges. And thank you also for highlighting UN Mountain Partnership. We are very happy as OSCE to be able to join that partnership this year. And our work in Central Asia and also in Western Balkans is a good sign of really operationalizing that partnership, which we will hope to continue. Now, I turn to Chairman Bahadur Sheralizoda. You were also at the OSCE high-level conference on climate change in Vienna, and we, of course, continue our excellent collaboration with Tajikistan in various fields, but including in the climate change and security field. Last year, you hosted the UN Water Conference in Dushanbe, which was a major undertaking, and you have also brought preservation of glaciers to the international agenda by designating 2025 as the UN year for that purpose. So you led those efforts. My question is, how can OSCE further contribute to your efforts in addressing climate-related challenges and also promoting regional cooperation? Please.
Thank you, Esra. Dear colleagues, first of all, I want to thank the CAREC and the OSCE for organizing this important event. And I have a long speech prepared by my staff, but I will improvise and just mention the main points. First of all, Tajikistan, as a mountainous landlocked country, faces climate-induced challenges such as glacier melting, frequency and intensity of disaster risks induced by climate change is increasing, and our economy and critical infrastructure is being damaged very severely. And according to the Asian Development Bank assessment, the impact of negative impact or economic loss from the climate change on the GDP is estimated at the moment around 50 million per year, and this amount will be growing to 150 million per year in the coming years. So this is the climate change is creating already and will be creating more negative impact for the livelihoods of people, because 70% of the population of Tajikistan lives or their livelihoods depend on the agriculture. And given the terrain that 93% of our country is mountainous, the climate change threat is real. And according to the data from the Emergency Situation Ministry, we have in the last 10 years, every 2 days, one emergency situation, climate-induced emergency situation, which I mentioned that this intensity and the frequency is increasing rapidly. On the you mentioned the Tajikistan being very proactive on the water and climate and diplomacy. Indeed, the initiative of the president of Tajikistan, the UN adopted UN declaration on the 2025 for the declaring as international area for glacier preservation. And despite the fact that Tajikistan being landlocked, developing country with different challenges, and we are one of the lowest emitters globally, nevertheless, we during the this COP28, Tajikistan made a pledge to the activation or the effectiveness of the UN Global Trust Fund on glaciers. So we are making financial contribution to activate this fund, and we're inviting all other parties to work with us and to contribute to this UN Trust Fund. What is also important for us is you mentioned about, and some of the colleagues from the Adelphi mentioned also about the importance of the research and interlinkages between the climate and security. And we need to talk about the also and the importance of the data for the adapting to the disaster risk reductions. So this comes with the technology transfer, innovation, and capacity building, both of the in terms of the hydrological stations building their capacities, both in terms of the equipment and the knowledge, and also the meteorological and glaciological stations, which we have all over the country. We have 98 hydro posts and 58 met stations around the country. And Tajikistan, in Tajikistan, 60% of the water resources of Central Asia are formed. So if we talk about the in general about the dynamics on the climate change on water and glaciers, so we need to invest into the research and building the capacity of the met agencies in the region. If we talk about I mean, specifically climate and security threats, and also Tajikistan sharing the longest border, 1,400 kilometers of difficult terrain border with Afghanistan. And on the other side of the border, the population is also being hit by very extremely cold winters, for instance, last year, and the food security issues. And despite the this security threat, Tajikistan, as at the initiative of our president, and we have opened the borders with Afghanistan for the cross-border trade, so that the people from the other side can come and buy the first needed products to provide their families. And I just last year, because of these extreme weather events, I happened to see a video and some reports from Afghanistan that families were selling their children to get the food in exchange. So you see how desperate can a person be to do this, and that's something which I think we need to also think. And I saw in the presentation, yours, Esra, that Afghanistan and these border remote areas are also included. So I think this will be very important, and to have some pilot projects on the cross-border interactions with on the border with Afghanistan. And also, if we talk specifically about the environment and some pilot projects, Beatrice mentioned about the research which she did and the results which presented. I, from my experience, could tell that some of the pilots which could really be beneficial, we have the national parks or nature reserves right on the border with Afghanistan, and our rangers also help our border management teams to patrol the border. So we can invest in training these rangers or providing them with the basic technology, such as maybe drones, and their patrolling effectiveness will increase maybe 10 times. If they do it by foot, maybe per day 10 kilometers, they can do with the simple drone, which their prices are decreasing each year. They can do 100 kilometers, for instance. Yeah, that will increase their productivity 10 times. I mean, these are the things which we can also work on. And on the other things which we can maybe think about, the broader regional approach. We are now working with Uzbek colleagues on the establishment of the Transboundary National Park. In the area which was the border closed, like if we go back 10 years ago, this border was in the Panjikent area region of Tajikistan. So there, like different interesting projects where with the small input we can get a big output at the end. So maybe I will stop here, and if there are some other follow-up questions, I will be ready to answer. Thank you.
Excellency, you have really touched upon on so many important topics, especially forward-looking, which are also part of our work. Data you have highlighted, that's very important. Early warning, disaster, especially for early warning and disaster risk reduction, the capacity building needs. I think these are valid points for across the region. Afghanistan, you have highlighted. OSCE has also a special program addressing some of those challenges with that together with the Central Asian countries which are related to Afghanistan. But you have also gave very concrete ideas, and thank you so much. I think we will take many of them very carefully, and we will discuss also with colleagues on how we can follow up on some of those ideas, like Tajikistan, Uzbekistan joint transboundary natural park, or looking at Afghan borders, which is again one of our hotspots, as you have highlighted, and training and capacity building. Thank you so much. Now I would like to turn to our colleague from Uzbekistan, Jahangir Talipov. Minister Abdulhakimov was also with us at the high-level conference in Vienna, and he also followed up with some very concrete regional ideas right after the conference to our Secretary General. He provided them, and he's a strong advocate of regional cooperation, which I have also seen in this in his interventions in the COP28. So could you please share with us Uzbekistan's insights on the entry points and priorities for regional cooperation in addressing these complex challenges, including, for instance, in Sand and Storm, that you have recently launched an important initiative. And Jahangir is also our national focal point, project focal point for this project of OSCE. Please, Jahangir.
Greetings, colleagues. Mr. Esra Botanis, many thanks for giving the floor, for the opportunity to be a speaker with the distinguished colleagues, with the representatives from the Central Asia. It's a great honor for me to be here. Unfortunately, Minister couldn't personally attend due to some urgent tasks that he was assigned at the moment, but he will rejoin us in the course of the next days. First of all, thank you for your questions. I think the paradigm of this of the Uzbekistan's cooperation has been drastically changed due to the dynamic reforms that we've been going in the recent years, and also it covers the environment, economic areas, and particularly strong focus is given to environment and the cooperation. And I think it's become a sort of axioma that one might agree that climate change, particular topic, is one of the topics that it's not that you can solve it standalone. So it strongly requires, regional cooperation, global cooperation, and the fact that our Uzbekistan president, His Excellency the President Shavkat Mirziyoyev, personally attended this COP, is also another big indication of the government's commitments for the further integration, for the cooperation with the global communities and the partners. And I think there is a big alarming, numbers. The research, the studies that's been, clearly indicating the fact that over the last 50, 60 years, 1/3 of the glaciers been melted in Central Asia. The landscape is changing. The various challenges, intensifying disasters and others. So, which also requires joint cooperation, joining the efforts with the neighboring states in the region. It also allows to mobilize the fundings for the international donors for these important, impactful programs, and also. And Uzbekistan stands as a big party for the organizing these meetings, dialogues. For instance, as you have rightly mentioned, we have recently hosted the big 21st session on the UNCT Convention, which took place in mid-November in Samarkand, where we discussed various issues, and among them, it was sand and dust storms, which has been also another environmental challenge that's been intensifying over the last decades. Because if something, this dust storms, which we used to have a few times in a year, now is becoming more new normal in some areas because it's becoming more frequent, more extended, and also in altitude-wise. If we used to have this sun and dust storms in areas with the altitude of 900 meters, but now it's reaching far above levels, which is reaching in mountains ecosystems and others. This was a part of the big discussion at the high-level event in the Creek and this session, which was also chaired by the minister and His Excellency Executive Secretary of Ibrahim Tiab, Secretary of the UNCCD Convention. And hopefully we'll further to continue developing this concept and develop this declaration on this, joining the efforts with partners. Another big event that I would like to also mention that's in March 2024, we're planning to host first Samarkand International Forum, the Central Asia in the face of the climate challenges, with the theme of the consolidation for the sake of common prosperity. We believe this will be one new platform of uniting the scientific communities, governors, international partners among this important alarming topic, and also developing tangible, practical, action plans in the region. And another event, conference, which I would like to also you to take a note and consider joining us is the 14th meeting of the Conference of Parties, CMS Convention on the migratory wildlife species. One might ask, it's a wildlife species, but we all know that, the habitat is changing. For instance, in Central Asia, we have the key flagship species of the snow leopard, which is also, occurs in higher altitudes of snow, ecosystems. But now due to the habitat changes, they have to also, change their areas and behavior, and also it increases the human and wildlife conflicts. It's again increases in security. It's a new comes with challenge. So these and other issues and topics we'd like to discuss in upcoming high-level UN events in Uzbekistan, in Samarkand. We all welcome you at this. Actively participate, distribute among your partners, network about these events, and be with us in Samarkand and in Uzbekistan in the coming months. So one message maybe conclude is we very much thankful for our developing partners as GIZ. Maybe I don't mention everyone, the UNDP, UNESCO there, who's very much engaged in this climate topics, but also OEC, and congratulations on this climate funding that OEC has established. As I think it's a great opportunity for our regions to launch very impactful programs and projects in the region. And we stand by to continue our strong cooperation in framework of this existing project on the OEC. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jahangir. You have really provided a very good overview of also what next steps at the regional level, but also global level that you will be taking. Of course, the Samarkand event in March, it sounds very interesting. We hope to be there to join you in that initiative. And as you have highlighted, of course, biodiversity, wildlife, these are all essential elements and goes hand in hand with climate change. And thanks a lot also for being a very active counterpart and very supportive counterpart on the ground to all our activities. Now I would like to turn to another distinguished representative, Ambassador Mahtumkuli Akhmiradov from Turkmenistan, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We also welcomed Deputy Minister of Environment of Turkmenistan in the high-level conference on climate change, and we benefited from his valuable contributions. And also actually in October, end of October, Turkmenistan convened a meeting of our Secretary General with the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of 5 Central Asian countries to discuss pressing challenges. There were 3 agenda items on the topic, one of them being climate change. And several proposals were put forward also in that conference. My question would be, Ambassador, to you, how can the OSCE support these joint efforts of the countries in the region, especially also given Turkmenistan's active engagement in these processes?
Спасибо большое, Эстра. Thank you very much. Вот. Я, в отличие от всех предыдущих, буду говорить на русском языке, вы уж извините. Вот. Значит, я бы сначала хотел сказать об этом проекте. Это очень нужный, очень важный проект, потому что в Туркменистане нет ледников, в Туркменистане очень мало гор. У нас 80% занимает пустыня. Но тем не менее мы считаем, что этот проект очень важен, потому что все страны Центральной Азии зависят именно от ледников. И здесь об этом разговора нет. Вот именно поэтому Туркменистан в этом процессе, в этом проекте, так сказать, участвует опосредованно. Он идет уже не как основной, а как вторичные результаты того процесса, который происходит. В этом смысле я бы хотел отметить несколько моментов, которые, так сказать, очень волнуют нас, которые связаны с рисками для всей Центральной Азии. Значит, первый момент, ну, конечно, это уменьшение водных ресурсов вследствие изменений климата. Да, меняется климат, да, ледники постепенно, к сожалению, так сказать, исчезают, вот, и, естественно, воды становится меньше. Вот здесь, на этом фоне, я думаю, что главный акцент по предупреждению рисков нужно сделать на направление рационального использования водных ресурсов. Не секрет ни для кого, что, к сожалению, у нас, я имею в виду как Туркменистан, так и страны низовий, вот еще идет процесс потери вод еще при доставке вод. Я понятно объяснил, да? Вы понимаете, о чем я говорю? Это просачиваемость и прочее, прочее. Вот здесь нам бы очень нужны были технологии, нам бы очень нужна была помощь от ОБСЕ в предоставлении таких технологий, таких методологий, таких методик, которые смогли бы нам снизить потери воды при, так сказать, доставке ее от стран Верховья в страны Низовья. Вот. Естественно, вместе с этим связан вопрос и продовольственной безопасности. Когда мы говорим, что климат меняется, мы, наверное, немного лукавим. Климат уже изменился. Нужно признать, уже температуры не те. То есть меняется все в сельском хозяйстве. Нужно менять сорта, то есть подбирать сорта именно для таких температур. Нужно менять систему полива, систему мелиорации, которые бы наиболее эффективно работали на получение, так сказать, урожая. Вот. Ну, наверное, нужно будет и с химическим удобрением, но это уже вторично. Вот. Еще один момент я хотел бы отметить. Вот уважаемый министр Таджикистана говорил о Афганистане. Да? Вот, то есть вот вообще, когда представлялся проект, я отметил, вот сидел и просто смотрел. Для Туркменистана что там было? Там был Каспий Coastal Zone, да, по-моему, Каспийская, если я не ошибаюсь, так, из 11 приоритетов, так, была Амударья, это то, что нас касается, и границы с Афганистаном. Вот. Сразу могу сказать, вы прекрасно знаете, что сейчас происходит на границе, так сказать, с Афганистаном. Чисто не политически, хотя это политический вопрос, чисто гидротехнический. Там, как это получше по-русски сказать, роется большой-большой канал Куштепе. Канал, который может забрать больше, если я не ошибаюсь, 10, не дай бог, ну, будем надеяться, что не так много, 5-6, то есть кубикилометров воды. То есть опять страны низовья, в основном под ударом окажется Туркменистан и Узбекистан, да, Джахангир? Мы с вами, да, потому что, ну, вот, и этот вопрос тоже надо как-то решать. Самое страшное – это не то, что этот канал роется. Да, ну, Афганистану тоже нужна вода, да, вот. Но самое страшное, что как он будет делаться. Это будет делаться, как когда-то строили Каракумский канал имени Ленина. Те, кто постарше, помнят это. То есть просто без облицовки вырыли канал, вот, а потом уже местами мы его, так сказать, облицовывали. Сейчас идет то же самое, то есть потери воды будут составлять огромные, так сказать, уровни. Вот. Ну и Ну, а в основном, я думаю, что, наверное, очень правильно еще было замечено, кто-то из господ министров сказал, очень интересно, что нужно развивать науку тоже. Вот сейчас есть проект по гляциологии. Вот Туркменистан, я еще раз повторю, у нас нет ледников, у нас нет таких высоких гор, но наши ученые с удовольствием работают с учеными вот, из стран Центральной Азии именно по этому вопросу. Я думаю, что вот этот вопрос по проведению научных исследований, а кроме того, то, что мы уже 2 дня говорим вот именно в этом зале, это вопрос подготовки кадров. Обязательно нам нужны кадры. Это очень серьезный вопрос, он стоит и именно вот по тем направлениям, потому что сейчас вот, проблема с кадрами в Центральной Азии, с молодыми особенно кадрами, она не на должном уровне находится. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And also, I must say, we are really grateful to Turkmenistan, our counterparts in Turkmenistan, who have been very actively engaged in the whole process, although it's not a mountainous country, but exactly because of the reasons that you have identified, you have highlighted, especially related to water. Turkmenistan has always been a front runner in our consultation processes as well. And thank you for highlighting the importance of technology, research and development, and especially when it comes to efficient water management. I think these are all very important, and we hope to continue with Turkmenistan also bringing a regional approach to those issues. And yes, several of those hotspots are also related to Turkmenistan, which you have highlighted some of them. And of course, we are also following closely this developments in the Karakum Dam, and we hope that there will be some solutions to the challenges that you have very rightly pointed out. Now I would like to turn to Ambassador Jurola of Finland. Well, Finland is among our major project donors, including for Central Asia. But Ambassador Jurola has been with OSCE for many years. She was the head of OSCE program office in Dushanbe. And then until a few months ago, few weeks ago, yeah, true. Ambassador was the director of Conflict Prevention Center in the OSCE Secretariat, which is one of the major, let's say, departments. So, with all this background, Ambassador, could you please elaborate on how, in your view, OSCE makes a difference in Central Asia, in this field, in the field of climate change, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Esra. And indeed, and I want to add one more thing, because my engagement with Central Asia goes quite far back. I was also a roving ambassador of Finland to Central Asia many years ago, but nevertheless, it seems that time flows fast. Thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this very distinguished panel. It really is a pleasure to be back on working or let's say participating in something that relates to both things that are very close to my heart, which is Central Asia and the OSCE. And also congratulations on the Central Asia Pavilion. That I think is in itself proof of how much the cooperation, the regional cooperation has developed, and so important in when we talk about climate change. Now, let's say with my past with Central Asian states and also the OSCE, I have to say that I'm acutely aware of the challenges that are faced by the region in regard to the effects of climate change, and of course, indeed, the urgency of addressing these challenges. And not only personally but Finland has a high appreciation for the work of the OSCE in Central Asia, including on the topic that we're discussing today. And well, as has been already, I think, pointed out in various ways, but indeed the OSCE, I think, has done invaluable, I would even call, work on climate and security in Central Asia. I mean, Indeed, regionally, the climate is warming much faster than the global average. And of course, we've talked about water resources already, agriculture, the sensitive mountainous regions, and all of these implications and the impacts are transboundary in nature, as we know, and in the long term, they put people's livelihoods at stake. So this is why we are, as Finland, really wanting to be engaged on supporting the region, and for us, transparent cooperation and joint responses indeed are key to mitigate and to eliminate these risks. And I think one of the things, again, that I want to highlight our appreciation of is that the Central Asian countries themselves are demonstrating such strong political will to tackle these risks together. And this is a very solid base for OSCE engagement there as well. So let me mention from the Finnish perspective, really why we are engaging with and through the OSCE in particular in Central Asia on climate change related issues. I mean, first of all, it is really about the fact that it's about fostering regional cooperation, which the OSCE does very well. And this is, of course, essential when one is dealing with a crisis or with crises that do not respect borders. And as I personally know very well, the OSCE has field operations in all the 5 participating states, and knowledge and the ability to bring the needed international expertise from really a vast network that the OSCE's altogether 57 participating states provide is something that I think is essential, and that makes the OSCE a good partner for the Central Asian states in this way. And so that is something certainly that I think also going forward will be really a major reason for us also to continue to support the work there. And well, I think one of the things too is that the high mountains and water, I mean, they are a challenge when we talk about climate change, but they're of course also a plus, a bonus that the countries, some of the countries in Central Asia, indeed, the ones where the melting of glaciers is now happening and is causing a crisis, but at the same time, the water resources that Central Asia has are also a benefit in terms of green and clean energy. So I mean, and each country has its own, let's say, pluses and minuses in that sense. So I think, again, we come there to the regional cooperation and the need for, the urgent need for on the one hand, addressing jointly these issues and to tackle climate change, but also identifying opportunities for green growth. So I think, that's something I think going forward that will be very, very important. And there, well, Afghanistan was mentioned also. I mean, I think it's about intra-regional and inter-regional cooperation and cross-border cooperation. And again, the OSCE is very well placed. I mean, there is, we're not discussing Afghanistan today, but Afghanistan is a partner for cooperation of the OSCE. And as such, the OSCE, I was about to say we, but I can no longer say we, have a major program also to support the implications of let's say what is happening in Afghanistan, to support work against the implications of potential instability, in particular in Central Asia. So I think again we come to looking at always the bigger picture, and I think that's where the OSCE is very good at doing that. One of the things again that I wanted to highlight, and I'll try to stick to 5 minutes. I could talk for an hour on this because it's so interesting, but the inclusiveness, I mean, really not just ensuring that awareness is built across the societies of the affected countries, but also that all parts of the society are encouraged and enabled to participate in managing and in mitigating the impact of climate change. I mean, climate change and everything that is happening, it's a potential multiplier or a multiplier rather of potential conflict. So really a whole of society approach is needed for awareness raising, but also for enabling. And climate change impacts multiple and converging challenges. So when we think about it with the environmental, the social, the economic, and even political issues, I think there I'm so glad that this project is also focusing on the potential of young people, because I mean, if anybody who needs to deal with these issues in the future, and I think those of us sitting on stage, we've sort of already failed, right? So we need to look to the next generations. If we haven't quite failed, but we certainly, we don't have time to do everything that is needed. So we need to look to the future generations, and the youth of today is the first ones to start with. But I'd also want to remind about the role of women, just to say, because of course, I think it's in general, and again, something that we appreciate in Finland, is that those who are the most vulnerable in conflict and crisis settings, they need to not only be supported, but they need to be empowered. So it's you know, any let's say civil society as a whole, and that includes the youth, that includes women, that includes the most vulnerable, because those who are most affected should also be enabled to lead climate actions and resilience building. And the OSCE is really well equipped to support its participating states in Central Asia, exactly because we work across all those let's say strata of society also. And I think I'm so glad about this ministerial council decision in 2021. I think the mandate there is really unambiguous, and so it does provide the OSCE, you know, with the tools to deal with the interlinkages of climate change, you know, induced environmental and economic challenges and security. So, and this is at the heart of what the OSCE is about, really, because we always, and I think for a good reason, in the OSCE, there is talk about the comprehensive security. I mean, that is a key concept, and it's all about all the aspects of security that guarantees stability and help prevent conflict. And you know, so Finland will have the chairpersonship of the OSCE in 2025. And this concept of comprehensive security overall is also a key to how we see taking forward the OSCE's important work, as the organization will be turning 50 at that time. And also this includes on the topic of today. So just to end, let me just say that currently we have so many humanitarian crises around the world. Many of them, if not most, have also a climate component or implications, you know, that for dealing with the climate crisis and its mitigation. I mean, Ukraine, Gaza, Sahel, Afghanistan, just to mention a few, and all of these need addressing by the international community, and they're a major and increasing burden on the global community to resolve and to support people who are affected by these. But I think that while the international community is struggling with these acute crises, it's equally important to keep attention to what are maybe slower but already happening climate crises in hotspots around the world. Of course, you know, it's including in Central Asia and very much in Central Asia, because we know that climate and climate change doesn't respect borders or categories for that matter. So we need a multidimensional approach. We need to recognize that these things are important. And I will finally say that early warning systems, of course, there are also essential. I mean, disaster response and management is something that needs to be done while we're trying to figure out what happened, what to do to stop this crisis. The frequency of extreme weather events was mentioned, and so yeah, more needs to be done. I'm so glad that the OSCE is working on this, and glad that Finland is a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for sharing your really very valuable insights from different heads. And we are very glad to have you here with us. You have especially highlighted also the importance of not only regional cooperation, but also intra-regional, cross-regional. So at least within our project, we are trying to have an exchange within the project regions that are covered, but of course also with our partners for cooperation, it's very important to engage with them. And also thank you very much for highlighting inclusiveness, especially with focusing on women and youth, which we will hear especially from on the youth aspect very soon. We have very limited. Actually, we exceeded our time, but we have three distinguished speakers still. And now I turn to Pia van Aken from the Climate, Peace and Security Division of German Federal Foreign Office. As I mentioned before, Pia has been in the lead of our project when she was with Adelphi before joining the Foreign Office. So she has been our great supporter from the very beginning. Also, she changed hats. Germany has been playing a very prominent role in promoting the climate, peace, and security agenda at the global level, and also in the OSCE context in getting that Ministerial Council decision. We have benefited a lot from Germany's support and all other participating states' support. And as I have mentioned, they are also among our major donors. So I would like to ask Pia, given Germany's broader support to Central Asia in the field of climate change, how do you think we can ensure better synergies and complementarities of our climate work with other major initiatives in the region? You know, of course, Green Central Asia initiative. So with our OSCE programs, how we can make sure that we complement each other?
Thank you, Ezra, and also it's a great pleasure to be here. As Ezra mentioned, in my former position and also in my current position, this project and the whole work with Central Asia is very important to me, but also for Germany in general. The partnership and the close cooperation with Central Asian states is very important. As you could see, last September, Chancellor Scholz welcomed all 5 heads of states in Berlin, and there was also a joint declaration coming out of this highlighting the importance of regional cooperation, but also of climate and environment. And I think this is really special that we have this very strong regional component here, which also serves as an example internationally. And then, of course, we are, as mentioned, also strong supporter of the OSCE as convening power, but also that the OSCE provides a concrete project funding for then activities being implemented on the ground. And I see 3 main areas for synergies, not only for the region, but also beyond. And the first one would be really at project level, because you can see here very concrete action. We talk a lot about climate, peace, and security, and that it is a challenge, but we then also wonder what is actually the measures that can be taken. And here next year, I think we will see some very concrete implemented projects in the Central Asian region, so where we can learn from, where we can see the examples and good practices, and this can also cross-fertilize with other regions that are part of the OSCE. So, for example, South Caucasus or Southeastern Europe, but it can also go beyond that. And then secondly, and there I take it from the project to the regional level, we heard about the regional climate change adaptation strategy, which has been supported by the Green Central Asia initiative, and we are we appreciate the long way it came, and this can really serve as a framework for the next years and hopefully decades. And I see that this project really helps to implement this adaptation strategy and can also feed into this adaptation strategy implementation. And thirdly, let me take it to the international level. There I really see that this regional cooperation, as I mentioned, can really serve as an example, because we see in the climate, peace, and security context, it's not often seen from a regional perspective, and not often also seen as something where you cooperate between countries. It's mostly internally within countries. So I think this can really give a special spin to it. And also the Central Asian region in general is a bit not often included in this discourse on climate, peace, and security. And I think there within the OSCE, the Central Asian countries can be very proud of all the progress they made and lead as an example there, but also internationally in the UN, it can be, you can amplify what you are doing there and showing what is also possible at a regional level. And with that, I would conclude. Time is running, and I wish you all the best for the next steps here, and commend you on all your great work.
Thank you very much, Priya. This was really excellent summary in three different levels, especially at the regional level, moving from analysis to concrete action. This is one of the strengths of this project. We are based on the analysis. We are now really going deeper in some of the hotspots, doing actual work. We will start in Central Asia. We are already advancing in Southeastern Europe. We have some good examples to share already. And you have touched upon at international level. You are absolutely right. When we talk about climate, peace, security agenda, it's usually, of course, more other regions which have existential threat. And in a way, with our member states from Central Asia and other OSCE participating states, we are putting a spotlight on a region which is closer to Europe, and we are really dealing with geographies which are not directly at the attention of at the global level, and filling an action gap, I guess, and geographical gap in that sense. Thank you very much. Now I would like to turn to Zoya Kretova. She is the representative from NGO Students of Kyrgyzstan for the Green Economy. Zoya, within the framework of our climate security project since last year, we have a specific focus on youth, especially in Central Asia. So can you briefly share your thoughts with us on how we can further engage and empower youth in the climate security field? And I would really, with apologies, request you to remain very brief. Thank you. There's another event and audience is here.
Спасибо большое, Эстра. Спасибо большое за приглашение принять участие в данном мероприятии. Попытаюсь очень кратко донести до вас ту информацию, те направления деятельности, которые мы с молодежью проводим при поддержке ОБСЕ. Мы не раз слышали о тех климатических угрозах и вызовах, которые встречаются в настоящее время в Центральной Азии. И все это непосредственно влияет на так называемую климатическую безопасность, которая включает все виды, конечно же, безопасности: продовольственная, гидрологическая, энергетическая и так далее. И мы все понимаем, что очень большое внимание сейчас уделяется именно молодежи, потому что молодежь, естественно, завтра уже станет лицами, принимающими решения. В регионе, к сожалению, недостаточно внимания уделяется образованию. И, конечно же, очень важно именно поддерживать молодежь, как формальное образование для молодежи, неформальное, вовлечение в различные профессиональные и непрофессиональные объединения. И как раз-таки ОБСЕ оказывает очень большую поддержку молодежи Кыргызстана, молодежи Центральной Азии по этим направлениям. Год назад в Кыргызстане прошла региональная конференция, где объединилась молодежь, прежде всего для написания, подготовки проектных идей именно в области климатической безопасности региона. И одним из главных предложений молодежи, то есть инициатива снизу, была такова, чтобы проводить регулярные летние школы. Летние школы желательно, конечно же, с акцентом на горные регионы, на безопасность в горных регионах. И спустя год при поддержке ОБСЕ студенты Кыргызстана за зеленую экономику провели уникальную горную школу на территории южного склона Тескела-То, в живописном ущелье у подножья ледника Карабаткак. То есть вы понимаете, какое уникальное место выбрано было именно для того, чтобы собрать молодежь Центральной Азии. Это источник воды, это естественные экосистемы. И мы приложили очень много усилий для того, чтобы именно молодежи привить интерес к науке, для того, чтобы показать, как анализировать изменения климата, где брать информацию, как визуально при помощи довольно-таки прогрессивных методов оценивать деградацию пастбищ, оценивать с помощью дистанционного зондирования изменения ледника. То есть мы молодежи показали, как уязвима экосистема в горных районах и какими инструментами они могут пользоваться для изучения. То есть мы показываем, как интересна наука. Вторым интересным таким важным моментом этой летней школы было то, что молодежь совместно разрабатывали проектные предложения, общие проектные предложения при поддержке тоже людей, которые занимаются разработкой проектов. И, конечно же, тем самым мы нашу молодежь подружили. Сейчас уже существует неформальная связь между туркменскими ребятами, между казахскими ребятами, между кыргызскими. У нас есть сообщество, мы регулярно делимся своими идеями, планами, мы задаем друг другу вопросы. То есть я оказываю менторскую поддержку, мои коллеги также оказывают поддержку, и уже сейчас активно продвигаются идеи дальнейшие. Мы уже есть результаты, когда именно молодежь начала интересоваться климатом. И это действительно самый важный результат. То есть мы сейчас с вами должны взращивать климатически ориентированных будущих лидеров. И эти лидеры уже сейчас дружат между собой. И я считаю, что в будущем региону нашему принесет очень большую пользу, когда именно лицами, принимающие решения, станут друзья. Мы легче сможем договориться для того, чтобы повысить уровень безопасности в нашем регионе. И от всех вас хотелось бы попросить оказывать поддержку нашей молодежи. Молодежь у нас бриллиантовая, у них очень много идей. Неправительственный сектор должен поддерживать нашу молодежь в качестве менторов. Государственные органы также, конечно же, должны оказывать поддержку, потому что, чтобы, так скажем, молодежь была в курсе той деятельности, которую государство проводит. И, конечно же, международные доноры должны также, конечно же, как вот ОБСЕ, поддерживать все инициативы нашей молодежи. И вкладывая в молодежь сегодня, мы позволим обеспечить устойчивое будущее региона и, конечно же, климатическую безопасность. Спасибо большое.
So thank you so much for this very promising and encouraging words. We are really, I think we have more hope for the future than what we have now. That's great, and thank you for your very active engagement and of the whole network. We are really privileged to work with you and to support you, and hopefully we will continue to do that. Now we have our last speaker, who is not only the first OSCE Special Representative on Climate Change, who has been appointed by the North Macedonian chairmanship this year, but also Mr. Nuretini was the Minister of Environment until recently of North Macedonia, with whom we collaborated very closely in the framework of this project and initiated a significant work on sustainable mountains in shared transboundary zone in Shar Mountains. So please, you have now the most difficult task, both of giving feedback on what you have all heard from
and being very quick,
panelists. And yes, please.
Thank you, Ezra. I'll try and be short and concise. Once again, dear ministers, dear distinguished panelists, it's a pleasure to be here. As we already mentioned, the OSCE Ministerial Council decision 2021 is of huge importance. Again, this year, July, the Secretary General held the first climate change conference, so highlighting that. The current chairman in office is further prioritizing climate change, and we had a side event in Skopje at the Ministerial Council, which we were very happy to announce that it went very well, and we continue to function as we have. First of all, I'd like to point out that we're speaking about climate resilience, disaster risk reduction, and things like that. And I agree, unfortunately, that means we failed in the past. That means we're adapting to the new norm. Climate change is having a very adverse effect on our livelihoods, on our resources, on our economies. Hence why when we're speaking about climate change, we always think about the economies, and we always think about that actually is the security. If our economies are not protected, our security is also not protected. I think it was highlighted very nicely by the chairman of the Environment Committee. I like to call a minister because I think that's a ministerial level, and by the other minister as well. Some of the countries, and I come from the Western Balkans. North Macedonia is situated in the Western Balkans. We have similar issue to Central Asia, but not as adverse. We are some of the smallest emitters when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. However, though, we are currently facing some of the most adverse effects of climate change. Now, as the Special Envoy to Climate Change, John Kerry, mentioned in July, the large developed economies need to also consider these regions. And it was mentioned earlier by the ministers, other panelists as well from the region. It is about sharing the know-how. It is about sharing the technology, helping create affordable solutions. Another thing I know it hasn't been spoken about, and I think we should all touch base on, is the fact, of course, it's a trans-boundary issue. When it comes to environmental protection, like it was in Western Balkans, we created one of the largest protected areas in Europe, if not the largest protected areas in Europe, covering 3 countries. When we speak about climate change, it's not transboundary, it's global. And working together on the topic of water is of utmost importance, because that will only not affect your livelihoods, but it'll definitely affect the security of your citizens and tomorrow's youth and the future. The solution? We haven't done enough. Of course, we should not lose sight of mitigation. We need to continue looking at mitigation, looking at our energy production, and looking at actually being more energy efficient. But currently, we need to focus on adaptation. And to do that, we need transboundary cooperation. The OSCE can do that because the OSCE has the field operation offices, which can actually communicate with each other, which created the most successful project in the Western Balkans. We have UNEP, we have UNDP, we have all the other organizations which we're very thankful for, but OSCE is the one that works on transboundary cooperation, and OSCE can be the key player and the pivotal organization when it comes to getting the other agencies to work together to try and create solutions on these adverse effects, actually challenges we're facing. Thank you very much for your time. See you soon.
Thank you very much. I think this was a great conclusion. Thank you very much, Nasser. And I'm very thankful to all our panelists, ministers. Thank you for devoting your time in this busy schedule. And we have benefited a lot from all your contributions. And we look forward to continuing our collaboration with you. Thank you.